never thought I'd be erased by my own mother. Not ignored. Not scolded. Erased. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I had dropped by to return something small, a charger I borrowed when I was visiting last. I didn't even knock. I still had a key. She was in the kitchen, folding dish towels like she always did, neat and precise, like everything in her life had to be measured, tidy, under control. She didn't even look at me. "You shouldn't be here," she said calmly. I blinked. "It's just the charger," she turned around. "I told you last time. I meant it. You don't exist to me anymore." Those words, like someone had flipped a switch and disconnected a part of me I didn't know could be unplugged. I stood there, holding that stupid charger, still warm from my palm, my fingers slightly trembling. "Mom, what are you saying?" She sighed like I was exhausting her. "After everything you did to this family, after the way you embarrassed me in front of everyone at Christmas, you expect me to pretend we're still okay?" Christmas, that fight. I hadn't even raised my voice, just asked a question about the money I had quietly been loaning to my brother, about why my name was left off the family group vacation she had organized right after. All I said was, "Sometimes it feels like I don't belong here." Apparently that was enough to exile me. "Mom," I whispered, "I didn't do anything to you. You attacked your brother. You accused me of favoritism, in front of everyone. And I'm tired. I'm too old for this drama, so no, you're not welcome here. Not anymore." She walked past me to the hallway, opened the door wide. "I don't want to see you again." The air in the hallway felt colder than it should have. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just placed the charger on the entry table and stepped out. She closed the door without a word. In the car, I sat in silence for 15 full minutes. No music. No movement. Just the quiet ringing of her sentence in my ears. "You don't exist to me anymore." I stared at the steering wheel like it might give me an answer. But it didn't. And then I did something I didn't expect. I laughed, quiet, broken laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the one person I had sacrificed most for had deleted me like a typo. I drove home and didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not my best friend. Not my coworker. Not even my therapist. Because, deep down, I already knew. The people who erase you don't pause to see what they've lost. They just move on. But me? I wasn't ready to forget. I wasn't ready to hate her either. I was just done chasing approval. She had made her choice, and soon, I'd be making mine. The strange thing about being cut off is nothing really changes at first. The world doesn't pause. No dramatic music plays. No one texts to say, "Hey, I heard what your mom said. Are you okay?" You just disappear. And the people you once loved go on like you were never there to begin with. The first time it hit me was 2 weeks after that afternoon. It was my mom's birthday. Normally, I'd show up early, bring her flowers, bake that lemon cake she always said reminded her of Grandma. I'd wrap her gift with lace ribbon and tape the corners neatly because she liked things to feel intentional. But this year, there was no invitation, no text, no update, just a photo on Facebook, posted by my cousin. Mom smiling, holding a gift, bag, candles lit. My sister and brother standing beside her, arms around her shoulders. The caption said, "Happy birthday to the strongest woman I know." I stared at it for a long time. Not because she looked happy, but because you'd never know I existed. Like I had been cropped out of the family, not even unfollowed. Just deleted. I wish I could say I felt rage, that I smashed something or screamed or called her. But all I did was sit on my kitchen floor and cry, not for what she said that day, but for every time before that, when I had stayed silent just to keep peace, just to be enough. You see, I was never the loud one, not the dramatic daughter, not the problem child. I was the one who stayed behind and picked up the pieces no one else noticed were broken. I paid rent for my brother when he missed 2 months after his layoff. I covered Mom's utilities during that harsh winter when her heater broke down. I canceled my own vacation so I could afford the deposit on the cruise she took with my aunt. None of it ever got mentioned. None of it was ever posted online. But I didn't do it to be thanked. I did it because I thought that's what love looked like. Even after she cut me off, I still found myself checking in from a distance. I'd ask my cousin, casually, "How's your mom's leg pain lately?" Or scroll through public social media posts just to see if she was okay. She'd post quotes sometimes, about loyalty, about fake people. Sometimes they hurt more than the silence. But I never blocked her, because deep down, I still loved her. I hated what she did. I hated the way she made me feel, but I still loved her. And maybe that's the hardest part. Then, one day, a message popped up on my phone from my mom's old friend, Mrs. Cartwright. It was short. "Hi, sweetheart. I heard about your mom. I don't know the full story, but I thought you should know. She's not doing well." My heart stopped. I replied instantly, "What do you mean?" "She's been in and out of the hospital. Something with her immune system. They're testing for cancer." The next message hit harder. She didn't tell anyone. But she's tired all the time. And scared. I didn't ask why she didn't call me. I already knew. Pride, stubbornness, maybe shame. But none of that mattered anymore. I stayed up all night Googling the hospital she used. I found their patient billing portal, searched through every public method of donation, every angle, until I found it, a sponsor a patient program. Anonymous contribution available. No names required. Just the patient's code. Medical ID. I messaged Mrs. Cartwright again. "Can you get me her patient ID? Just for something I'm looking into." She sent it within the hour. That night, I entered my information. Set up recurring coverage. Added extra for meds and diagnostics. Paid the full overdue balance. And when the confirmation screen appeared, payment processed. I just stared at it. There was no joy, no pride, no thrill. Just a quiet line in my mind that said, I won't let her fight this alone. Not even after everything. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from the hospital billing desk. "Hi, we're calling to confirm your anonymous sponsorship for patient ID ending in 4937. If you'd like to continue payments privately, we'll note, your file under initials only." I smiled. "Yes, please list it under EL. My name, but only half of it. Let her wonder." The payments became routine. Every 2 weeks, I'd receive an automated confirmation. Payment processed. EL, oncology and diagnostics coverage. Paid in full. I never saved the emails. Never printed anything. It wasn't for documentation. It was for her, and for myself. Because even after all the silence, all the shame, all the erasure, I couldn't stand the thought of her suffering alone. Not when I could do something about it. Not when I still remembered the sound of her voice saying, "I'm fine, sweetheart." Even when she wasn't, I began tracking her condition in the most detached ways possible. A family member would casually mention something in a comment. Mom's hair is thinning again. A blurry photo would show her in the background at a pharmacy. Once I overheard someone say she was too weak to attend church that week. All signs that her treatment was real. Ongoing, and I was keeping it that way. I never told anyone, not my cousin, not my friends, not even Mrs. Cartwright, who'd unknowingly handed me the key. Because I knew. The moment anyone else found out, it would stop being a gift. It would become a statement. An I told you so. And that wasn't what this was. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't even redemption. It was love. The kind that doesn't beg to be noticed. The kind that just gives. Once I saw her at the hospital. I wasn't there for her. At least not directly. I had gone to drop off paperwork for a different patient assistance program. I volunteered sometimes, mostly admin tasks. She was sitting in the lobby alone. Wrapped in a soft gray shawl I remembered buying for her 3 birthdays ago. She looked smaller. Not just physically, but spiritually. Like someone who was still holding a grudge, but didn't have the strength to carry it anymore. I stopped, in my tracks halfway across the room. She didn't see me, or maybe she did, but she didn't look up. And I didn't move closer, because helping her wasn't the same as needing her back. That night, I opened the billing dashboard. Her next chemo cycle had been scheduled. High dose. Expensive. A flag showed up beside the date. Pending approval. I clicked. Once. Covered the full amount. No hesitation. No thinking. Just a quiet final line in my mind. Even if she never says thank you, I'll know. A month later, the hospital's billing department called again. Hi. We've been asked by the patient to provide documentation for insurance. She noticed all her invoices have been zeroed out. She's requesting to know who's covering her care. My breath hitched for a second. She's requesting to know? Yes. And we told her it's a private donor listed under EL. She asked if that could stand for you. I stayed silent. Would you like us to tell her? I swallowed hard. My voice was barely above a whisper. Not yet. Let her heal. First, they agreed. Patient confidentiality. No pressure. But I knew. That meant she was wondering. That the cracks were forming. That maybe, just maybe, the person who erased me was starting to realize I hadn't walked away. 2 days later, I received a message. From a random email address I didn't recognize. The subject line just said, I think I know. Inside, saw the initials. I asked the nurse twice. She wouldn't say it, but I know. No one else would have done this. Not for me. Not after what I said. If it's you, please know this. I don't know how to ask for forgiveness, but I see you now. There was no name, no signature, but I knew who it was. And for the first time since she shut that door in my face, I felt her hand reaching toward me. Even if only from a distance. I didn't reply. Not because I was cold, but because some things don't need to be answered right away. Some truths just sit quietly until they bloom. It started with a nurse's slip-up. Not intentional. Just human. Mom was going over some insurance paperwork after her 3rd chemo cycle. Her hair had started to thin. Her skin had gone pale. She'd stopped posting on Facebook weeks ago, and when the billing nurse handed her a copy of her covered expenses, she said without thinking, Your donor's incredibly consistent. We've never seen someone cover everything without a single delay. Mom blinked. Donor? The nurse paused. Oh, I mean, the sponsor. You're under the EL private donor bracket. EL? Yes. Anonymous contribution. But it's someone close to you, I assume? Mom said nothing. Just stared at the document. At the bold line across the top. Balance. Due. 0.0. Paid in full. Donor ID. EL. That night I received another email. Same sender. No subject. You've been doing this the whole time. Haven't... You? I asked the nurse. She wouldn't confirm. But I know. I feel it. Why would you help me after everything? I wouldn't have. I read it at 2:17 a.m. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just closed my laptop and sat there in the quiet. Because those 4 words, I wouldn't have, meant more than any apology ever could. The next morning, I received a call. I didn't recognize the number, but I picked it up. Hello? Silence for a second. Then a shaky breath. I don't know how to talk to you. It was her, my mother, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I don't deserve this. Not after what I said. Not after what I did to you. I stayed quiet, not out of anger, but because sometimes silence holds more truth than words ever could. She continued. I thought you were punishing me when you disappeared. I didn't realize you were still there, behind everything. Behind my healing. There was a long pause. Then she whispered, Thank you for saving my life. She asked if she could see me, not to explain, not to fix everything, just to be in the same space again. I agreed, not out of obligation, but because a part of me needed that moment too. We met at the hospital garden. She was wearing that same gray shawl, wrapped tightly around her shoulders like armor that didn't work anymore. I wore black, not because I was mourning, but because it made me feel solid, visible. She looked up when I approached, tired eyes, fragile posture, but something real behind them. For the first time in months, she didn't look through me. She looked at me. She stood, slowly. Her voice cracked. I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't, if I were you. I didn't say anything. She reached into her bag and pulled out the printout. The billing document. She held it up with trembling hands. I saw your name. A tear slipped down her cheek. Even when I was pretending you didn't exist. You were making. Sure, I still did. That broke me. Just a little. Not because she cried, but because for the first time in my life, she saw me. I didn't do it for an apology, I said softly. She nodded, but I needed to say it anyway. We sat on the bench for over an hour. She talked about chemo, about fear, about pride, about how sometimes love hides behind control, and sometimes it disappears completely because we don't know how to hold it without hurting someone. I didn't interrupt, didn't correct her. I just listened. At the end, she said something I'll never forget. You gave me more than a second chance at life. You gave me a second chance at you. I walked her back inside. She held my arm gently, like I might disappear if she let go too fast. And just before she went in, she turned to me. Can we start again? I thought about it, then said, we can start from here. Not again. Just from here. She smiled through her tears. That was enough. Mom's treatment continued, and so did the payments. But something had changed. Not in the balance, not in the documents, but in her. She stopped pretending, stopped posting quotes about fake people, stopped acting like her pain had a villain. Instead, she started sending small messages. Chemo was easier today. Thank you for the hoodie. It helped. The nurse said I'm responding well. I hope your week was good. They weren't emotional. They weren't desperate. They were real. And for the first time in a long time, so was she. One day, she left a package at my door. No note. No explanation. Just a small blue box. Inside it, the old charm bracelet I'd given her as a teen. The one I thought she'd lost years ago. Next to it, a new charm. Tiny. Silver. The letter E. No drama. No apology card. Just one tiny symbol. She knew. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just held it in my hand for a while and thought, maybe this is what healing looks like. Quiet, uneven, slow. Weeks passed. We didn't become best friends. We didn't have a mother-daughter transformation. But she called once a week. She asked about my business, about my favorite cafe, about a book she remembered I loved, not to make up for the past, just to be in my present. And slowly, something opened in me. I stopped holding every memory like a wound. I started remembering the good things, her humming in the kitchen, her hand on my back when I cried as a kid, the time she drove 3 hours to bring me soup when I had the flu in college. They weren't fake. They weren't erased. They were just buried. She finished her last round of treatment on a cloudy Monday. I offered to pick her up, but she said no. Instead, when she walked out of the hospital doors, she saw me standing across the street, holding a small sign. You made it. Her eyes welled up. She didn't run, didn't hug me like in the movies. She just walked over, stood beside me quietly and whispered, I don't know who I was before this. And I replied, now you know. Who I've always been, she nodded. No more words. We went for tea, not celebration, just peace. She asked if she could pay. I let her, because sometimes healing means letting someone carry even a small piece of the weight they once threw on you. Later that night, I got a text. Thank you for saving me, not just my body, but the version of me I lost, the one who still knew how to love you. I didn't reply. Some things don't need answers. I wear that bracelet now. Not every day. Just sometimes. When I need to remember that being cut off doesn't mean you were the problem. Sometimes people erase you because they can't face what they did, and sometimes forgiveness isn't a performance. It's a decision to let go, without needing applause. She may never say everything I needed to hear. She may never undo the years she made me feel small. But when I look at that charm, the tiny silver E, I remember something more important. I didn't wait for her to deserve my love. I gave it anyway, and when the truth finally reached her, it didn't need to knock. It was already in her heartbeat. Not all stories need revenge. Some need silence. Some need space. Some just need to be told. So this was mine. She cut me out of her life. But even then, I never left hers. What did this story make you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.